Hi, this is Mr. Payton. Welcome to Standing on Their Shoulders. In this episode, I want to talk about Africa. Just recently, a movie called Wakanda Forever came out, but it was his predecessor, Black Panther, which kind of captured everybody's imagination. And I think one of the reasons why it did so is because it didn't try to trivialize or document Africa. It kind of made Africa this wonderful, mythological, awesome place. Well, when I was a kid, that's all I thought it was. When I would see African artwork, when I would hear people from Africa speaking, when I heard the music, just even the few images I caught of whether it was something as simple as like a safari or just seeing some of the animals, I just thought, is that place even on earth? It just seemed so amazing to me. So one of the more difficult things that I've experienced in my life is the lack of camaraderie between African Americans or blacks and Africans. That is to say, brothers and sisters from the African continent. My first experience with this was in college. I met a gentleman. He was from Nigeria, and every time I saw him, I'd speak, nothing. And, try to acknowledge him, try to work with the guy. He was an older student, so I thought maybe it was just he thought I was too immature, too young, or whatever. So one day I caught him in the coffee shop, and I just asked him, I said, excuse me, can I ask you a question? He looked right at me, and he was kind. He said, sure. I said, man, I speak to you all the time, and I try to engage you, and you are not interested. And he actually asked if I had a minute and sat down and broke it down to me, man. And the stuff he told me was it was so bothersome. Basically, and again, this is just one person's account. I'm not sure this is true for everybody. But he told me that when he came over to the United States that he was advised by not only his own people, but by the folk that hosted him in the United States that African Americans didn't have respect for Africans, wouldn't be hospitable, these types of things. So he thought, because at the time I was a basketball player, so I was an athlete, so he thought that I was like a quintessential, typical black man who had no respect for Africans and things like this. To his credit, there was a time, and I would say the late 70s through most of the 80s and possibly into the early 90s, where calling someone an African was considered to be an insult. And so I know that what he said didn't come out of nowhere. I just didn't realize it had been communicated so profoundly to people who had come over to this country. And so I finally had this opportunity to talk. And so he and I, built a relationship over a couple of years. And I just began to ask him all the things that I was concerned about. Not the superficial things like, do you guys dance or whatever? Are there bones in your noses or whatever? Not that kind of stuff. But I asked him, for example, what religion in the country you're from? And he was, again, from Nigeria. And we discussed those things. And he talked about the fact that the country was kind of split between the Muslim faith and the Christian faith, and how it was a big deal when you made that decision. And so I just was so excited to finally have someone who could give me just a glimpse of the quote unquote African, which is an entire continent, obviously, but the experience. But it further troubled me once he and I, parted ways and went on about our careers and our lives. So every time I would see someone who I thought might have been African, I would remember what he shared, but I still had this burning desire to just have a conversation. Because to me, and whether this is right or wrong, I just have this burning thing inside of me that says I need to connect with this part of my heritage. One of the difficulties for Black people in the United States is that we don't know where we come from. To say that we're Americans is a fact, but remember, for most of us, the first word in our identification is African American. To say African is ridiculous because it's an entire continent. You can't say from Africa. It's like saying I'm from Europe. So people who have European ancestry, they can tell you that they're Irish or Scottish or Italian or German. I don't know. I have no idea. Now, in this day and age, you have things like Ancestry.com and things like that, and you can look it up. the point I'm making is that it was in me as a child to just want to investigate the other part of my experience. Being raised in America, I was proud of because I know I've had a good experience compared to how other people are living outside the world. Now, could it be better? Sure. Anybody who's black will tell you it's tough to be in the United States and live. But I do understand that that is relative to the American experience. Our experience is far better than most people in most countries, and I am fully aware of that, so I don't take that for granted. But I've always had this burning desire, and so I just thought it was important to share that because I'm sure there are other people who have that experience. And for me, again, it still is there where I want to make this connection, and hopefully at some point in my life, if my schedule and my resources permit, I'd like to go and take my daughter there and just get an experience again, just to have that opportunity. I'm sure that if someone is Irish, they'd like to go to Ireland. I'm sure if someone has German roots, they'd like to go to Germany. So I don't think it's a unique thing that I want to do, but it is an important thing to me, and I think it's something that other black people probably deal with and think about. So I hope that this experience that I just shared with you about this need and this tug of war between African Americans and Africa as a continent, and then Africans as a people. I hope that it gives you a little bit of insight to why, again, the black experience is so unique. So hopefully this will spark conversation, debate, questions, exploration. And if it does that, then mission is accomplished. At the end of the day, I'm an educator, and all I want to do is stimulate conversation, ideas, growth, and critical thinking. So again, please like this video, please subscribe to my channel, and I thank you for your time. Have a great day.